Alright, the scenario is you've just bought yourself a camera, and the next thing you're going to do, if you're anything like myself, is go straight onto Google, YouTube, maybe grab a few books and learn how to use it. Learn everything about photography and the settings it takes to get a good exposure basically. Take a good picture. And what you'll find is that you're often told to take your camera out of automatic mode, so stop letting the camera make decisions for you and learn how to use it properly in fully manual mode. So, you know, the good old exposure triangle, you need to learn it. But is shooting in fully manual mode actually the best way going forward? The most optimized way of using your camera? Well, for me personally, it isn't. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. So what am I actually talking about? Well, I'm talking about a hybrid sort of feature by giving some control back to your camera, but you retaining most of the control and the creative control most importantly. And that feature is auto ISO. It's basically letting your camera choose the ISO based on the aperture and shutter settings that you've chosen. So what are some of the best suited scenarios for actually using auto ISO? Well, for me personally, I'm a sports and action shooter, so I shoot a lot in outdoors, ever-changing environments. And as you can see here by these images, it's fast-paced and I need to work quickly. So if I was to shoot in fully manual, I'd be leaving it to myself to adapt to these conditions on the fly. Now, I used to try and do this, but quickly found that it is time consuming and it's pretty hard to do. So hats off for any photographer who was actually shooting full manual with sport and action. Auto ISO is, in my opinion, the way forward for this type of stuff, because you've still got a lot of creative control when you pair this with exposure compensation. So you can darken or brighten the image as you choose. You've got your control over your aperture, your control over your shutter. So you can freeze motion, you can blur motion, you can choose different apertures to blur the background or bring more of the scene into focus. And what you've got to remember basically is, in ever-changing conditions outside, you don't have control of the light, so auto ISO is one less thing that you need to think about when you're making decisions on what you're shooting. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about what auto ISO is and why I actually choose to use it over shooting in full manual, I'll actually show you in a real world scenario how I actually shoot using auto ISO, and I'll compare it to actually shooting manual as well. So the proof's in the pudding. You can decide whether you would choose to use auto ISO or shoot fully manual in these conditions. So let's head to the track.
We're here at the track. As I said, what we're going to be doing today is shooting in manual and auto ISO and comparing the two. So the conditions today, as you can see, it's really nice actually, it's really sunny. We've got a little bit of cloud cover, and this might play into the hands to show exactly why I think using auto ISO is a great way of shooting, like on the fly. You know, you're not having to use your brain as much basically. And we'll see if that happens today. Maybe, who knows, I might be switched on and I might actually be able to work manual pretty well. But yeah, as you can see, it's fast action. The guys are coming over the jumps. And we need to capture that the best we can, as fast as we can. So I think first off, I'm gonna switch the camera into manual. Today I'm using the Canon 7D Mark II. This auto ISO, as far as I know, will work across most brands. You just got to figure out how to do that. The only other system that I own at the moment is Pentax, and that's actually got a dial, TAV mode it's called, which is a dedicated auto ISO. Yeah, I'm going to switch it into manual, grab an exposure and take some shots and try and change on the fly with the riders and the conditions, moving around, shutter drag, you know, try a few different techniques and that, and just see how I get on. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, we're going to be in manual mode now, and I'm just going to use this jump as the first example, and I'm going to try and capture the riders and change my settings around to get a half decent exposure. So I'll just plonk yous down on the ground and I'll be talking through the mic. So first off, we obviously need to be in manual mode and change our shutter speed. We've got 1000 f4, that's giving us ISO, actually I better take it out of auto ISO, that'd be a good start. For this type of stuff, to help with my shutter speed, I'm going to try ISO 200 to start off with, and then move it around. I might need to go up or down. The bad thing about what I don't like on these Canon cameras is the exposure comp indicator is on the right hand side of the screen, it's not below, directly below, so it makes it hard to see. And I'm guessing really at the moment because I'm finding it really hard to see that exposure dial. As you might have heard that I'm not spraying and praying, I've just got the camera in single shot and firing off single exposures. So that's fairly decently exposed, to be honest, that one. And at the moment we've got a consistent light. The clouds are not really coming over the sun, but that could all change at any time. As I say, this is fairly consistent at the moment, so in this case, shooting in manual, fully manual mode is actually working fairly okay. But I'm going to end this one here, shooting in manual, and we're going to move on to auto ISO now, and when we get home we'll compare the results. Alright, so what I've been doing there is I've just switched the camera over in auto ISO, and I've been using exposure compensation to be one stop above, so you know, I'm retaining the highlights still, but I'm opening the shadows up because I think it's a fairly constant light what we're getting now, consistent light. The clouds are not really coming over the sun. So today actually wasn't the best example of shooting in manual versus auto ISO because the conditions are staying fairly consistent. Auto ISO really comes into its own when the weather's changing all the time and you can't guarantee that your exposure is going to be bang on. So I'm going to crack on for today, get some more shots, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm out for now.